Hello, this is Flurry Moon. Welcome back to my channel. When you think of virtual games from the 2000s, your brain most likely goes to sites like Club Penguin, Webkinz, Movie Star Planet, Wizard 101, and essentially other kid-friendly sites that you'd hear about from your friends or just stumble upon yourself. These online games were so popular and successful not just because how fun they were for kids, but because of how safe they were. Parents felt at ease knowing their kid was spending their time online playing mini-games and decorating their frog Webkinz room, instead of stumbling upon sketchy sites or messaging strangers with no chat filter. Yes, you could make friends on these sites, but there was heavy moderation to filter out and ban any user trying to say or do anything deemed inappropriate. Not only that, but these games were aimed at children, so the themes were very wholesome. But what happens when an online game meant for teens and tweens receives little to no moderation or control? This becomes the site for the cool kids. Essentially, a popularity contest based on who can have the coolest, trendiest clothes and hairstyles, dating, hackers and scammers, celebrities, fights, gangs, and a shutdown with zero warning. As someone who was obsessed with this site as a kid, it's pretty surreal to look back on how weird it actually was. This is a deep dive into WeeWorld. But before we get into it, huge shout out to Eric Moran Films for this video. It's a great video. I played a lot of WeeWorld as a kid, but it definitely brought back some memories. I highly recommend going to check out that video, and let's get into it. Now, to my surprise, WeeWorld was launched on March 20th, 2000. I don't know why, but I thought this was created in like 2008 or something. I don't know, maybe that's because that's when I first started playing it and everything revolves around me and my experiences. The initial excitement of WeeWorld was having access to customizing your own avatar, as that was a fairly new concept for the time. That's right, before Bitmojis and even Miis on the Nintendo Wii, we had Wiimis. I'm not having a stroke, I promise. Wiimis were designed back in 1999 by Mike Kinsella, the Scottish founder of the dating site sawyou.com, which I couldn't find a whole lot of information about. Somewhere down the line, Kinsella would switch over to creating WeeWorld alongside John McGuire and Celia Francis. Users could access WeeWorld.com to create their own Wiimi and display it on their Facebook or Twitter. WeeWorld would also eventually team up with AOL, MSN, Skype, and even Microsoft, and these would absolutely skyrocket WeeWorld into success. I mentioned the Nintendo Wii a second ago, and I thought it would be interesting to note that WeeWorld actually attempted to sue Nintendo back in 2007, alleging that the then unreleased Wii's Me feature was a copy of WeeWorld's Wiimis. This is very confusing, are you still with me? Nintendo defended themselves by basically saying the use of Me and Wii are under fair use, and also alleged that because WeeWorld didn't start using the Wiimi name in the US until after the Wii was announced, there shouldn't have been a problem. But this is where it gets messy. At this point, WeeWorld tried to drop the case without prejudice, which essentially meant that they were dropping it for now, but they could possibly pick it back up at a later date and try to sue them again for the exact same thing. But at that point, Nintendo was pissed, so they filed an objection. They claimed that WeeWorld should dismiss the suit with prejudice, meaning that they wouldn't be allowed to file a future lawsuit over the same issue. I am not a lawyer. Not even close, actually. Maybe the furthest thing from a lawyer you've ever seen. Take that with a grain of salt, that's just what I got out of this. Anyway, Nintendo claimed that they would like WeeWorld to pay for all the legal fees and stuff, which at that point would have been over $400,000. I do not know how this lawsuit panned out. I don't believe at least the public ever got an answer, but I can't imagine it went any further because I'm pretty sure we probably would have heard if it got even messier, I can imagine. imagine. But anyway, let's get back to WeeWorld. Anyway, aside from the online game, WeeWorld would also release apps in the early 2010s that allowed you to customize your own avatar without accessing the main site. This included WeMe Avatar Creator, Talking WeMe, WeMe Vacation, etc. The WeeWorld site eventually became the hottest virtual space to express yourself, along with making new friends, playing games, shopping, and showing off your unique style. Every user had their own WeMe and room they could customize and decorate. You could switch up the wallpaper, flooring, and of course display furniture and switch between multiple aesthetics. This is also where your bio was displayed, describing yourself and interests. Not only that, but you could comment on other WeMe's rooms, as well as add friends to yours. With that, you could give each friend a title such as BFF or boyfriend and girlfriend. That's right, dating was not only allowed, it was encouraged. There was even a single sign that you could display over your avatar, and like while you were walking around at like the mall or something, like it would just appear over your character. I don't remember having many boyfriends on WeeWorld, but I can imagine dating was pretty much just like talking and like adding them to your little room display, but what else can you really do? I mean, we'll get to that. What are we drinking today? I have a Dunkin' iced coffee, 2 caramel swirls, 2 coconut shots, and 2 cream, and then extra ice because duh. Although the game was aimed at teens and preteens, many young children played WeeWorld because 1, the age demographic for virtual worlds at this time was more around 8 to 12 than teenagers, and second of all, kids loved it so much because it was aimed at teens. You felt like a cool kid playing with all the older kids on WeeWorld. Instead of locations like a playground or a pet shop, we had the mall, gymnasium, and Paris. Instead of a pretty fluffy dress and bunny slippers, we had flannels, crop tops, makeup, and backwards hats, because that's cool. You felt like the cool older sibling. And we all wanted to fit in, so most of us would just pretend we were teenagers. However, the problem was we all kind of had the same idea. So most likely anyone that you met on WeeWorld claiming they were 16 was more likely 10 or 11. Or 60. There was no way of knowing. However, this wouldn't necessarily negatively affect the numbers for WeeWorld, at least not yet, because by 2008, over 20 million users had made a WeMe avatar. The site would gain even more attention when WeeWorld would introduce celebrity WeMes. These would be official WeMes associated with certain celebrities, those being Justin Bieber, the Jonas Brothers, Jason Derulo, Cody Simpson, Paris Hilton, Maroon 5, Justin Timberlake, Willow Smith, Alicia Keys, and many more. Some of these celebrities would even have their own clothing lines that users could purchase in-game using gold points. This just shows how popular WeeWorld got, because at the time, Justin Bieber was like the biggest pop star, so the fact that they got him is honestly pretty impressive. While we're on the topic, the 2 currencies in WeeWorld were green and gold points. You would need gold points to purchase just about anything cool enough, and of course gold points were obtained by, you guessed it, spending actual money or spending money to get a VIP membership or even watching ads. On the other hand, you could receive green points by simply playing the game, working at a job, and completing achievements. I never had any gold points, as I don't remember ever asking my parents for the money for that. I think I was more focused on my Club Penguin membership. I took that very seriously. But I definitely do remember being jealous of all the really cool Weemies with like their like swoopy scene hair and like the crop tops and the glasses and like, I don't know, all the cool stuff you could get, because this site, as mentioned before, was literally just one big popularity contest. You could could also level up your Weemee, essentially by just completing various tasks in the game, such as playing games, changing your room and outfit, sending gifts to friends, etc. You could also level up by working jobs, as mentioned before, which essentially just consisted of managing different stores. Anyway, your level was important if you had any interest in entering the Fame game. This was a contest that was held weekly, and it was essentially a popularity contest based on the clothes you were wearing. The winners would be decided based on other players voting, so many users would try to bribe others into voting for them. The winner of the final round would receive 5,000 gold and exclusive items. However, the popularity contest didn't just stop at trendy clothes, having the most friends, and winning the Fame game. WeeWorld began scouting players to become ambassadors. These were Weemies entrusted by a user named Jake, who was in charge of appointing players who proved their trustworthiness and knowledge for the game. Ambassadors would be tasked with answering questions and welcoming new players, following the rules and reporting anyone who would not, posting tips on their page, etc. You could tell a user's ambassador status by looking at their avatar, as these Weemies would have a globe behind them. So although many players claimed that you should not be an ambassador just for the popularity, it was a pretty big flex, and many users dreamed of one day opening that message from Jake and even uploaded videos to YouTube on why they should be chosen to be an ambassador. Anyway, as mentioned, a huge part of being an ambassador was keeping the community safe. But Flurry, you may ask, what was the worst that could happen on WeeWorld? Well, I'm so glad you ask. For one, as mentioned before, there wasn't a whole lot of moderation. Now, you could get banned, you weren't allowed to just say, like, the F word, you know? But it wasn't out of the ordinary to still catch other users saying not very appropriate things. This was because bad words were banned, but I don't think WeeWorld accounted for all of the other roundabout and sneaky ways you could say bad words online. For example, Club Penguin would have the swear word banned, as well as other sneaky ways you could type it out, like missing a letter, $, period, etc. However, WeeWorld didn't really seem to do much about those, so users were constantly swearing and using other inappropriate language in a roundabout way with little consequences. There was also a hacking problem on WeeWorld, and this would typically occur in the form of one user approaching another and basically saying like, "Give me your password and I'll give you a makeover." And because we were all way younger than we were claiming to be, a lot of users fell for this and would give away their password thinking the next time they would log back in, they would have a whole new look. And instead, they either never got their account back, or when they did get their account back, everything would be gone. How sad. So I guess this wasn't necessarily hacking and more just like tricking and scamming. Another trick would be to say like, I'm gifting gold points or I'm gifting VIP. As you can guess, nobody was ever actually gifting any of these things. These next couple may be upsetting to some younger viewers. It's nothing that crazy, but I should probably say something. Proceed with caution. There were a few different locations you could visit on the site. I remember always going to the areas with the most players active, and you could figure that out based on the color it was labeled at that moment. I feel like the most popular spots were the mall, gym, and Paris. Paris was labeled the city of love, so of course, Weemies would typically go in there in search of a new boyfriend or girlfriend. Paris is often where you would see some inappropriate behavior. Essentially, players would have blank here, and the way they would simulate this act would be by jumping up and down. I had no idea this was a thing when I was playing, or at least that that's what they were doing by jumping up and down at the Eiffel Tower. So when I looked into this and read this, I was shocked. I was like, wait. I don't know, I mostly just played WeeWorld because it was cool. Like, I liked the look of the avatars. Although it wasn't the only game I played Club Penguin and Webkinz a lot. WeeWorld was where I went when I wanted to feel like a teenager. I've said this before, but when I was a kid, when I was a preteen, I wanted to be a teenager so bad. I thought it was so cool. It's probably because all the TV shows I watched were centered around teenagers standing at their locker and getting into fights with their friends and, ooh, does that guy like me? I'm going on a date this weekend. Like, it just felt all so exciting. And then I became a teenager and I was antisocial and never dated a single soul. Anyway, not only that, but prepare yourself for what I'm about to say next. There was a major gang problem on Wii World. I'm still not exactly sure how this worked, and I'm sure I encountered said gangs when I was playing, but I just didn't know that's what was going on. But essentially there would be gang fights that pretty much just consisted of saying like, our gang is the best, no, our gang is the best. There's even still a ton of screen recordings on YouTube of these gang fights, as well as the top WeeWorld gang leaders. I can't even believe this is a real thing. There's even this video dedicated to the history of gangs on WeeWorld, and my favorite, WeeWorld Gangs and Consequences. This video is structured like a PSA with 3 Weemies lecturing you on why joining a WeeWorld gang will get you put in jail, possibly for life. All while multiple random Weemies keep joining the room by accident. It's honestly comedy gold, so I highly recommend checking this video out. Anyway, because of all these factors, parents were not too fond of WeeWorld, and they made it known. Many parents and players left poor reviews on many sites and forums, and let's just say, I have never seen the word inappropriate misspelled in one place in so many different ways in my entire life. Bad! Exclamation points. Totally inappropriate. It is made for the teens because it shows pictures of teens in their Wii character. Never let your child on this web. Not enough safety precautions. Anyone can leave a message or attempt to chat with your child. The avatars are misleading. My child started using it to play games and was quickly contacted by people we didn't know. It is a very inappropriate website. Some kids dress in inappropriate clothing, such as pants. Such as pants that are halfway to their hips. And it also has party rooms. And they are not used for having parties. They invite their girlfriends and boyfriends and they do inappropriate things. Also, WeeWorld does not filter their language properly. And WeeWorld also lets the Weemies to adopt kids. And they also give out their passwords, phone numbers, addresses, and Facebook names. If you need more info, talk to me on WeeWorld. My name is Love2Live123. And my favorite, so not good. This website is good. So, with all this, looking back, it shouldn't have been a major surprise when WeeWorld went into liquidation in 2014 and sold it to new owners who then decided to shut it down in 2017. However, players were dumbfounded. And to be fair, I don't exactly blame them. No announcement or warning of any kind was given to the players that had not only spent hours upon hours playing on this site, but actual money was spent as well. Fans were left with nothing. Is the site down temporarily or for maintenance? When will it be back? Will it be back? Will we be refunded for all of our VIP money? I'm not entirely sure if anyone ever got those answers. All the WeeWorld mobile games would be taken off the app stores, their Twitter would go private, and their Facebook would go inactive. This YouTube channel entitled WeeWorld Legends posted this screen recording from 30 minutes before WeeWorld shut down for good. And this user claims they know exactly why WeeWorld was shut down. Every day on WeeWorld, there would be someone booting and kicking us off the site. WeeWorld was so easy to hack, apparently. On 11th May, a hacker called Troy closed down the site for a week. WeeWorld couldn't do anything about it until that week passed. On May 28th, John McGuire, the owner, said he'd relaunch the site by June 5th. He only told the ambassadors, but a few of them told me. On June 5th, they failed to relaunch it because they didn't have enough money to do so they sold WeeWorld to Excel and Benchmark Capital, 95% sure, and they have no interest in bringing the site back. Maybe if you guys hit those two companies up on social media, you can get somewhere with it. I have no idea how true this is, as WeeWorld Legends also admits and boasts about hacking other users and how easy it was. This is hilarious. However, it does seem like this player was heavily involved in all the WeeWorld drama and lore, so I'm gonna choose to believe their version because I just think it's funny. So WeeWorld ended as messily as it started. However, WeeWorld wasn't all bad. There were also groups made to spread positivity and inclusivity. Hashtag I Accept All was a group focused on supporting and accepting all people no matter the gender, sexuality, race, etc. Hashtag Take Note was a group focused on mental health, and users could reach out to any of the admins if they were ever in need of support. And hashtag Helpful Hearts was a group focused on anti-bullying. With that, I think WeeWorld could have been better off if they decided to choose a demographic and stick with it. I'm pretty sure this website was 13 and up. I think they could have benefited maybe either from, if they wanted to keep that rating, they should have really doubled down on moderation and at least made sure that people couldn't say swear words so easily. It was incredibly easy to say bitch. Like, it was so easy and nobody did anything about it. The dating thing I do find a bit weird for a site aimed at kids as young as 13. I think if they had either doubled down on moderation and maybe kind of like leaned away from the whole dating thing, I think this could have been great. Honestly, I think WeeWorld maybe would have lasted a bit longer, but also I gotta give it to them for even lasting that long because, I mean, even Club Penguin, who had a great reputation in my opinion, I believe it was a very safe place. There's always that risk, honestly, though, for just being online, but even the safest places have some weird people, but for the most part, I felt safe on Club Penguin. I don't remember anything that crazy happening. So even Club Penguin shut down after a while because at the end of the day, kids don't really play on virtual worlds that much anymore. I do think it's making a bit of a comeback, but that's mostly with adults like us going back and playing all of our favorite old online games. I play Club Penguin Journey all the time. You can add me. My name is Flurry Moon. So I think either they should have done that and made it a safer place for younger kids, or doubled down on its mature aspects and maybe made it 17 and up or 18 and up or something like that. I know maybe that would have kind of killed it because, again, mostly kids were playing on it, but I think the aesthetic alone would have kept the children, you know? Because honestly, maybe because I was just like a sensitive kid and I was kind of like a goody-goody, I wasn't a big fan of seeing all the, I don't know, the people swearing a ton and like the inappropriate behavior. Like, it made me uncomfortable, you know? So I just kind of ignored it. I probably would have been a lot happier if it was a bit more moderated, but that's just me. I know a lot of people played because they liked having that freedom, but it wasn't exactly the greatest idea for a safety standpoint. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I spent a ton of my preteen years on this frickin' site. I really wish I could access it nowadays. I would have loved to see how I left my account. That's about it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below if you remember WeeWorld. Yeah, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye!